What's up, guys? We are back for another Mythic Legion's Advent of Decay figure with one that I think is a bit of a heavy hitter just based on my own personal interests, and not to mention the fact that it's a heavy box too. So we are taking a look today at Brother Mandibulus. This guy just looks absolutely wild. You can see him there in the standard packaging. He's in there in that big window in all of his frightening detail. We have got the bio for the guy on the side, and then on the back we've got that same style artwork that we see throughout the line. So let's pull this guy out and take a look. All right, guys, here we go. Brother Mandibulus out of the package. And I gotta say, this guy at first glance looks like he is easily one of, top 10, top 5 figures in this line. I'm sure some people are going to put him at the very top of their list. And I wouldn't dispute them because this figure is top notch. There is so much cool stuff going on here. You could honestly just stop this video right now, although I suggest you don't, because I've told you what you need to know. He's a fantastic figure. But now I'm going to tell you why. So of course we have to start with articulation. I don't think it's going to be too crazy in terms of what we see here, but let's run through that real quick. So moving him around, he's going to be basically what we see with a lot of the other skeletons, a lot of the other humanoid type characters. So you can rotate the head side to side. He does have one of those vertebrae extensions that come out of the neck. That is his neck, his bone neck, basically. And you can go up and down and bob side to side, left and right. His visor, if that's what you really want to call it, is articulated. It goes up and down. The arms can go all the way out. You have to get this plastic piece over his tunic. And then you can rotate all the way around. My joints are real tight, not a complaint, just a point. We have got elbow swivel, we have got single jointed elbow, and both of them, they're obviously different sculpts on the arms. This arm is a little slightly less articulated in terms of that elbow hinge, just because there's a lot more plastic there. So we've got rotation and hinge at the elbow, we have got rotation at the forearm, rotation at the wrist, and then there is a hinge there as well. We have got a waist twist. He goes back really far and forward a decent bit, side to side, and then he's got bobble in there too. Legs go all the way out, they kick all the way forward, they kick pretty much all the way back. Thigh cut, you got a knee rotation, single jointed knee, which is about as far back as it's going to go for a single. We have got rotation at the ankle, we've got hinge, and then of course we've got rocker, and that's full rockery action. You can't get any better than that, really. So he is about as articulated as I would expect him to be. He's not overly articulated, but he's certainly not under-articulated compared to some other figures. So he's got a lot of motion here. You can get him into some pretty dynamic poses, maybe more than you had originally expected for a figure of this type, but I am happy with what he provides. Let's be honest though, the major factor for this guy is, of course, the looks. The sculpt work and the paint work on this figure is just blowing my mind. There is really no way for me to say it otherwise. I am in love with this evil looking skeleton dude. There is so much stuff going on here because of the fact that he does have a lot of different styles about him. We've got full-on humanoid legs. We've got one skeletal arm. We, of course, have got a crazy, crazy amount of stuff going on from the neck up, which we'll talk about specifically. But then we've got a fully armored arm. We've got a solid tunic, and we have got, a rubbery loincloth, but we also have soft goods. And if I'm going to have one gripe on this figure, it's going to revolve around the soft goods for a very specific way, which I'll get to in a second. But let's just, soak it in for a second, because this guy is just amazing. There's just so much to talk about with this. I'm going to try not to ramble on. So, you can see we've got a fully armored arm here, and this is kind of like a gunmetal armor, but it's so battle worn that it's just sooted and nasty. And that goes for pretty much all of his plate armor, especially down on the feet. We do have parts reuse here. This is like the arm that you see on Keltis. We've got Rhaegor's boots, stuff like that. I'm sure I could think of a few more that are going on here, and that's not a knock or anything. That's expected. Parts reuse is normal here. It's just I like to know where stuff comes from when I see it. I really dig whatever this logo is on his chest. The tampo work there is really nicely done. All of the shading, all of the pitting, all of the kind of fake battle damage is really well done on this figure. You can see that he's got a muddied up loincloth here with the rubbery loincloth here. And of course, like I mentioned, he does have soft goods, and there is some really cool stuff going on with what they did here. But there is one thing that I have to mention, is that you have to put the soft goods on yourself. And frankly, when I got him out, either I just wasn't thinking, or you know, it just didn't dawn on me right away of how to put them on. And honestly, I still don't know if I actually did it correctly. I believe I did, but there's no instructions. So what I ended up having to do was pulling the figure apart, and there's a huge ball peg that sits on his waist, and there's 2 little slits on each one, and you put them on over that ball peg, and then you put the figure back together over top of it. I believe that's how it's supposed to be done. It certainly looks that way, but again, I wasn't 100% sure, and that's pretty much where my gripe starts and stops. Beyond that, though, I think the colors on them are very nice. They're nice and vibrant compared to some of the other stuff, but what's interesting is that they've put like fake blood splatter on the soft goods, so it's kind of crusty on the bottom of both. You can see like a little rust color for the black for blood, and then it's a darker red for blood on the red side. So that on its own is worth the price of admission. That level of detail, not to mention all the tatters and everything, it very much works for this particular figure. I think everything about this is just absolutely top-notch, and it stands a cut above some of the other stuff I've already seen in this line. Of course, we have to get in close on this head sculpt because it is so absolutely crazy. Now, he does have one of these kind of neck pieces. I've seen this on Keltis, for example, another figure. I think Rhaegor comes with one too. You can pop this off. It just fixes into the back of his neck. So this is a removable rubbery piece. And then the head is, of course, removable. That's pretty normal. There is an extra head that we'll talk about shortly. But this particular head is the one that I'm always going to use, I think. I mean, just look at it. There's so much going on here. You've got chainmail coming in underneath that copper helmet, which is battle-worn. We've got the broken horn. We've got this nice weathered one here. We've got this crazy visor here, which the visor is removable. It also is articulated, so like I mentioned, it goes up and down a bit, but it's removable, so you can see the skull underneath. Of course, you do have holes on either side if you decide to do that, but you can just see the wild, crazy expression that's going on here. He's a skeleton warrior that's screaming in your face. He's got these black, sunken, orbital eyes there, and then of course we've got the teeth, which are crusty and nasty and covered with some gunk and goop, and I mean, just look at it, soak it all in. This figure from an artistic standpoint is just top notch. Everything about this is super well done, and I've rambled on and on and on about how much I love this, and I think it's amazing to look at. It's even more amazing to hold in your hand and to see all of these fine details up close. Now, as far as accessories goes, obviously I'm doing something a little different with this one. I've got the weapons rack out from Masters of the Universe Classics. I figured it's fun, let's do that, because a lot of these figures have a bunch of stuff, so it's easy for me to get them out and showcase them. And to kick things off, as usual, we've got the adapters for his back. Those don't really fit on the weapons rack. We do have the sheath that you can put on his waist, holster his sword. We've got this monstrous thing. I don't know if this kind of weapon has a name or not, but this thing is absolutely doing it for me in every fashion. We've got a humongous pitted and scratched blade with a little bit of design here. You've got this wrap that goes up and down it. It is very well painted, very well shaded. He can hold it in either hand. He can hold it two-handed. It's slightly taller than he is overall. This is my favorite weapon that he comes with, but in general, I'm very happy with everything that he's packaged with. This thing is just, so far anyway, unique for me. I'm thinking that we find this later on, or it's in a weapons pack or something, but this thing is pretty legit as far as I'm concerned. We have got this sword right here, which has a very interesting handle. I thought at first that he wasn't going to hold it very well, but he holds it quite nicely. It's actually a pretty tight grip. You can see they're like horns that make the hilt. Some gold embellishments. We've got another unique design. There's a hole at the end of the blade. It's pitted, it's scratched, it's seen some battle. So that one is very, very cool. I'm very happy with that. This thing doesn't really sit in the rack too well. And then we've got this humongous cudgel, this big mace, which is kind of dwarven almost, is what it really looks like to me. It's got a wooden handle, or, well, it's not real wood, but you know what I mean. And we've got this kind of multi-bladed mace type weapon with some gold embellishments on a kind of a gunmetal-y gray-black finish there. So this is pretty solid. He can hold all of these weapons in both hands, and again, he can hold whatever this big dude is in both hands simultaneously. So I'm really, really happy with everything he comes with. I think it's all very, very much fitting for such a savage looking figure. And then the other thing we have got an extra head here, and this guy has no mask, obviously no helmet, but he has a hinged jaw. So you could pop this head off and put this one on instead. I'm not sure that I'm ever really going to use it. I've been having more fun playing with it as, it's a victim of Mandibulus rather than an extra head, because I just can't get this image out of my head when I think about this guy. But as far as skulls go, This one is rock solid, and the hinged jaw, on its own, adds a lot of life, a lot of character, so that's definitely a fun little accessory. So yeah, I mean, he's pretty well stacked. He has just about everything you could think of for this type of character, and I am blown away by all of what he comes with as far as weapons go. But of course, we've, changed him up a bit, as usual, and we've got the pauldrons on him this time. They are very much fitting with his armor. They pop into the ports on the back. We've seen these before with other figures. They aren't unique to him. Painted up very well. They have seen a lot of scarring, a lot of battle damage, and I don't think that I'm going to not use them. I think they have to go on him. They do, of course, hinder his articulation at the shoulders, but just look at this guy with these pauldrons on. They are amazing. I love having the option of switching these in and out, but I think they're going to stay on my particular figure. So overall, I'd say we have an absolute winner. I mean, I've already mentioned that once or twice, I'm sure, at this point, but everything about this figure is a cut above pretty much anything else you can find in this arena. I really think that this is easily one of, if not the best figure in this line from a technical standpoint. Everything about this guy is 100% on point. There is some fantastic parts reuse here. I love all of the fine details that they've done to make him look really gritty and battle hardened, from all of the staining on his armor and the pitting on the weapons to the blood on the soft goods. Everything about it is just top-notch and fantastic and dark and demonic and evil looking, and that's really what this figure is about. Like I mentioned previously, the only real gripe I have is that I wasn't too sure what I was supposed to do with those soft goods, but once you figure it out, like I mentioned, then it's no big deal. It was just kind of an oddity. Kind of threw me for a loop for a second. But other than that, this guy is about as perfect as it gets. I love everything about him. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mythic Legion's Advent of Decay Brother Mandibulus from 4 Horsemen. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.